Let me first thank the people of North Carolina. But instead of giving a speech, which I've done many a time on the hurricane, I think it's appropriate to give a speech on lessons learned, because it's not if, but when the next hurricane will come to North Carolina. In fact, what we're learning is that the 100-year storm comes every 10 years, and we have to prepare for it, and we have to be ready for it. And I made some observations this morning on lessons learned for future legislators, for future governors, and future emergency response people. And these are some of the lessons learned. First of all, water and when the hurricane first came to Florida and then was downgraded in Georgia and South Carolina, then in North Carolina, people heard the rankings go from 4 to 1. They relaxed, and therefore, I think we lost some lives. And I'm strongly recommending to the federal government that we change the hurricane rankings to include water as a part of the rankings and not just wind. The third is, sadly, we've always learned that some citizens will ignore our warnings and will stay put or will drive in and around barricades. One lesson learned from, I know the mayors here today know this lesson, the more manned barricades we have with personnel to block people, the more lives we're going to save in the future. Because sadly, even in Fayetteville, long after the hurricane left, we had an individual go around a barricade and take his car right into a very deep culvert. Sadly, even our athletic conferences played 3 football games the night of the hurricane when we were telling people to stay off the roads. We put athletics ahead of safety, and that can never be done again in North Carolina. We had 4 individuals coming back from one of the football games. This is not known. 4 individuals coming back from one of the football games who were swept away in their car in a stream. 3 of them were rescued. 1 of them was not. Ladies and gentlemen, sporting events are not more important than the safety of our citizens and also our public safety officials. And we've got to come up with a system when we know there is danger coming. We've got to have the courage to cancel events regardless of TV contracts and other factors. Fourth, natural disasters always impact those who can least afford it. And the major priority of this administration and this team is to help those who can least afford it. Because whether they were living in an apartment complex, barely keeping their head above water to pay rent, whether they were living in a mobile home, whether they were living in a floodplain in which housing should have never been there, these were the people impacted, many in the middle of the night with absolutely no warning whatsoever, especially in Lumberton. And I saw firsthand the pain and anguish of not only what they lost, but even the loss of their pets. And we've got to help those people first, and that's exactly what this bill does, is to help those who can least afford dealing with a natural disaster. Fifth, shelter has to be the #1 priority, clean drinking water, #2, power, and roads in that order. Infrastructure is very, very important, and our team did a great job in doing just that. 6, communications. I'd like to thank the media. This might be the first time in my 4 years. But the media played a crucial role in advising the people of what to do and what not to do. And the good news is most listened. Sadly, some did not. And sadly, we lost 28 lives, 26 due to drowning. But we also learned that communications through the media is not the only thing we can do, because those people being impacted don't have their TVs on. They don't have power. They don't have water. They don't have shelter. So the one-on-one communication, where you can actually touch and feel and hug the individuals involved, especially in the shelters, it works. And the team behind me, many of those did just that. You've got to reassure these people one-on-one in each of the towns that were impacted. And that gets to teamwork. We had the best team between state, federal, local officials and the nonprofits that I've ever seen in the history of North Carolina. No turf, no ego, no glory. This team worked extremely well together, and I'm so proud of them. Another factor I learned was this, is that we have to reassure people when we do evacuation orders that their property must be protected. And I'd like to thank our National Guard and our Highway Patrol and local police and fire for ensuring when we asked someone to evacuate their home that we reassured them that their property was going to be protected, especially in the dead of night. And if you notice during this hurricane, there was very little looting. And I commend especially the local officials for doing that, and also our National Guard. And the three last things that are most important and why we're here today. Long-term recovery is even harder than response, because you've got to really think about it. And you've got to think about the long-term implications. In response, we're going on instinct. And we had some people behind me with incredible instinct. But long-term response is why we're here today, to rebuild and rebuild lives and communities the right way. And that's what this bill begins to do. And the thing I'm most proud of this legislature behind me is I had people throughout this storm when we went to visit them, they said, "Don't forget us. Please don't forget us." So after the cameras left, after the water receded, after the politicians made their initial visits, the temptation is to forget those people still left behind and hurting. This legislature was willing to come back for the special session and remind those citizens in each of these towns throughout eastern North Carolina and western North Carolina that they haven't forgotten. And the last is thank you. We have, I think Phil Berger is in caucus right now. I'd like to thank Tim Moore. I'd like to thank the Hurricane Recovery Committee co-chairs. Thomas Stiff, Vanessa Harrison is here. Ann is not here, and neither is Mr. Wordsworth, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate the work. Mike Sprayberry. With all due respect to my legislators, I need to give this first to Thomas Stiff. And I also need to give the second one to, Mike Sprayberry. Mr. Speaker, thank you for your leadership. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. And also, Vanessa Harrison. On behalf of your entire committee, people don't know how hard they've worked attending all these meetings as the hurricane. Thank you very much. On behalf of the entire At the end of this administration, we're short of pins, so, there are three people that are here that came from the local level that I think saved lives. They saved lives. They were They were among the people during this hurricane, before, during, and after. And I got to see it firsthand. B.J. Murphy, Chuck Allen, and Nat Robertson from Fayetteville, Kinston Goldsboro in Fayetteville, they were true leaders. And they represent their emergency response teams, their firefighters, their police officers, the county commissioners, everyone, because it was a team effort. So I'd like to give pins to those three mayors. I think all three are here. Thank you, BJ. Appreciate it very much. God bless you. Appreciate it.
I'm up top, but I'll come down.
Come on down, buddy. You did a great job at Goldsboro, I'll tell you.
He's trying to make my big side look.
Thank you very much. God bless you. And thank you all to the leadership. I think Nelson Dollar, I need to give you thanks for sharing that. I really do appreciate it. God bless you. And thank you all very much. Did a great job. Thank you all very much. God bless you all.